Let's talk about that shiny thing sitting next to your right hand. What does it feel like for Stephen Morrison to receive an Emmy Award?
Um, this honestly is a reminder of what staying in the moment and staying down would do for you. This happened on my last year at ESPN.
Hey, welcome back from the break. I told you that we would have an amazing episode for today. And I like to give a great introduction. Our guest today embodies hunger. The dictionary defines hunger as having a strong desire or craving for. An example, he hungered for a sense of self-worth. Our guest today embodies that. And he's not missing any meals. Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. He's not missing any meals, but he's hungry for success. He's hungry for the next opportunity to conquer his goals. On today's episode, we have an Emmy Award winning. We have the founder of Morrison Group Consulting Agency. And I want you to give a big round of applause. I want you to give big hand claps to our guest for today, Stephen Morrison.
Yo, the intro fire, man. I feel like I don't even know what to say, dog. I'm humbled and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to join your platform. Number one, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an awkward, weird feeling hearing someone like amp you up and like just literally sit there and
Hey,
like somebody, especially it hits a little closer because it's someone that you've rocked with from back home. But look, man, I appreciate it. But as much as I think I've accomplished, or as much as I sometimes am reminded of some things that I've done that's wild, I'm still a humble dude from 33, bro. I just keep it quiet.
yes,
You know
sir.
what I'm saying? I keep it simple, dog. But I appreciate it, bro. What's good, Rob Base?
Nothing much, man. How you doing today?
Man, I'm living, bro. It's Sunday. The sun is up. I'm blessings are being, coming in abundance rather. I'm recuperating, dog. I just got off the road, so I'm back at home. You know, came back to reality. This y'all work yesterday, and today is Sunday, so I'm gonna get my workout going and cook a little dinner, man. So back into the normalcies of a good life in
Yeah.
Charlotte.
And ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the audio right now, but he has this nice shiny Emmy
This thing right here,
on his
man.
right side.
This thing
I could
right here,
tell he
bro.
shines that thing up every single day
I
because it is
I
beautiful.
give a little I give a little elbow rub, bro. This right here, man. It means a lot, man. It means a lot simply because when you leave Orangeburg, right? Your wildest dreams are in front of you.
Right.
You often are told um, you know, what you can't do when you leave the burg versus the possibilities that should be endless. People should tell you that anything is possible, regardless of where you're
Mm-hmm.
from. But from the burg to go up 13 plus hours to Connecticut, with tons of uncertainty. You know what I mean? I'm
Oh
sure. I'm
yeah,
sure. I'm sure we're gonna get into all that. I'm sure we're gonna get
we
into.
gonna
We're gonna
get
get it.
to
I
it.
ain't gonna say.
Yes,
I ain't gonna tell it all. I
sir.
ain't gonna tell it all. I ain't gonna tell it all. But this
Yeah.
right here means a lot coming from where we started from and where our roots are. And to be one of few to have accomplished and won an Emmy. So I'm thankful. In the most challenging year to date, for not just sports, but obviously for society, during a time where we were in a global pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. And I was talking to Davey Rickenbacker on
Rick.
on our last episode, and I was telling Davey about his ability to break the algorithm.
Yep.
You know, he wasn't the only one. There were multiple people that they just had a different feel
Hmm.
on society. They had a different feel in regards to what they wanted to do in their lives. And you were also one of those guys. Like it's very easy to get caught into the mindset of a small community.
Right.
And Orangeburg is a pretty big city for South Carolina, but it's small. So a lot of people tend to get caught up in to one way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And for people like yourself and David Rickenbacker and others, it's just something about our brains that just said, you know what, let's see what else is out there.
Exactly.
And it's not easy to do that because there's some failures that come along with it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Steve, when I bring my guest onto the show, I like to hear a good story.
Okay.
And for me, I think it's fitting for our guests to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Are you down with that?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Perfect. All right. So tell me about young Steve.
Young Steve. Young Steve wasn't actually young Steve. Let me tell this story as accurately as possible.
Okay.
If you know me and you really know me, you know that nobody really calls me Steven outside of like the scholastic world. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
Right. 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 Right.
young Steve is actually young Corey. And
Okay.
so Corey is my middle name, and my family, anybody that knows me in my church and my community, is Corey. It's when it gets to
Okay.
it's when it gets to grade school where it's like Stephen. And still to
Yeah.
this
And,
day,
and you
like,
and we call you Steve
yeah,
Mo.
nobody
So
calls me Steven. So it's still when I hear that, it's like you really don't know me if you calling me Steven. So whatever. All right.
yeah.
So young Corey was a very inquisitive, uh, big headed, little skinny guy running up and down the streets of Russell Street. Often in the church on Sunday school. My mom kept me grounded in those um, uh, structured and good environments, all the time. And so, if I wasn't doing or playing extracurricular activities in the community in the city, you know, um, city league football, um, anything that's going on that's a positive influence out, for extracurricular activities, then, I was sitting up at the house playing video games like every other kid in Orangeburg, man, with summer days. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm eating, I'm learning how to cook at a young age. I'm eating all the PB&Js in the world. I'm
Yeah.
going fishing, at a young age with my grandfather. I'm enjoying the pastimes of being a young country boy growing up in the South. And of course,
Yeah.
with that comes the cutting of grass and outside activities, just learning as much knowledge as I could from my elder influences and my elder family members. And so, but young Corey was a guy that asked why a lot. I often, I like, anytime you said something, it was, so why? And it was like question after question after question. But as a young kid, you don't know that you could be real annoying to your older cousins and aunties and
Mm-hmm.
uncles. You could be,
Yep.
just the little brother of the group all the time. But when you're that young, you don't know. You're just living in the moment. And for me, it was always asking the next question and like just paying attention, dog. Like just trying to be a sponge in
Dude,
every scenario I could be in.
but that's amazing, and it's a great start to a life of discovery.
Yeah.
Because you're asking questions, you're trying to understand. Hey, why does this happen
Right.
for me? What does this mean? And what happens is when you grow up to be an adult, you continue to have an open mind to different just sensations, and it just helps you on a path to success, especially if you have the work ethic
Yeah.
to match that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So Steve, I'm gonna tell a story, right?
All right.
I'm gonna tell you a story about the first time that I was introduced to you.
Oh shit. Excuse me. Here we go. Here we
Let me
go.
clear my throat and make sure. All right. So in Orangeburg, South Carolina, we have a youth football league, and I played flag football just like a lot of other people, a lot of other kids. We played flag football,
Yeah.
which is non-contact, very light contact. You pull somebody's flag, play over.
Right.
I get old enough to make it to the tackle football league, and of course, everyone gets on the team. Blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So I get on the team, and we're in practice. This is like the early practice. and we do the Oklahoma drill. And for our listeners in Europe, who don't know much about American football, the Oklahoma drill is a one-on-one drill, full contact, mano a mano. It's basically last man standing.
Mm-hmm.
So in this particular day in practice, I get lined up with a player, a young guy. I mean, you're a year older than I am, so
Yeah.
you had been in tackle football 1 year. So they line me up with you. The coaches say, "Hood." We crash. Boo. Steve, like, I got my bell rung so hard.
Bro, you said that was me, bro.
It was you,
I
bro.
don't know. I don't know, dog.
my,
I
you rung my bell, and I woke up and I was contemplating, like, do I really want to do it? Like,
dog. Look, I played on a couple city teams, bro. So okay, wow. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'm
that's my introduction to you. And see, the crazy thing is, I didn't even remember who hit me for many, many years. And I can't even remember who was on the team for back then because it was a long time ago. But yeah, they said, "Oh yeah, that was Steve. You remember that day when you and Steve?"
dog, what?
that yeah, you clean my clock. But what I want to segue into is high school football. Like, you were a high school football player,
Yeah, yeah.
and before we get into the football, did I like to ask people this question because my mom sat me down and made me create a list of things that I want to
Yeah.
accomplish going into high school. Did you have anything like that set, or were you just like, "Hey, I'm just gonna get to the high school and we just gonna see what happens"?
Well, I mean, it's a little bit of both. If I can be real honest. I mean, here's the thing. So when I was in eighth grade, right? I spent like 70% of my eighth grade year at home because I broke my right I tore my meniscus in my right knee, so I had to have knee
Mm,
surgery, right? And so
mm.
this was at the end of football season, eighth grade, playing for the city. Coach Scarborough is my coach. You know what I'm saying?
Did it happen playing
Yeah,
football?
it happened playing football.
Okay.
Shout out to Coach Scarborough, and word to those good kids out in Barnwell. We were playing out in Barnwell, and so um,
Hmm.
broke my leg, caught the only touchdown that game. City League football, our team wasn't that great, but had a pretty decent quarterback in Young Collins and some good players individually. B Rich, some guys like that. But
Hmm.
tore my leg up on a fumble. So I get back to school, had to have surgery. I'm on bed rest for like 3 or 4 months. That's the rest of the year. Football season in the city is over in like October, November. So like,
Jeez,
yeah,
man.
from December, January, like I didn't get back to school probably until end of March, in maybe early March. So from that point on, it was very quickly moving until the end of the year was there. When I got back, I was on crutches and stuff like that. So that's eighth grade. So going into ninth grade, my focus, not to be too long winded in that manner, but it was to
Hmm.
bounce back and make sure I could obviously go into ninth grade year playing football. But then, scholastically, it was get my work done, find balance, and the places in which I struggled because I was just doing learning from a distance. I wanted to make sure
Uh-huh.
that I was able to close that gap, in the English and in the math specifically, going from middle school to high school. So it was a
Right.
solid transition. Grades were always, above average, but with high school, you have a lot of different variables that can get you, going a number of ways as far as going from middle school to high
Yeah.
school. You got more
Yeah.
of a social life, you got more friends and different from different backgrounds. You're exposed to a lot
Yep.
more. So, I
Yep.
just wanted to make sure that I went in there and was able to make it out. One, not just physically, but from an educational standpoint, from the first day moving forward. So whatever that looked like,
Yep.
honestly, going into ninth grade, I couldn't tell you that I had a strong blueprint. It was make the football team, get my work done, and find my good circle of friends that I felt comfortable enough, growing with and moving through high school. So it was pretty good.
Man, listen, you talk about your friend group, and we'll make reference to them later on
Yeah.
in the show. the episode that I had with Nick was named Friends, and Friends, how many of us have them? And in that episode, him and I, we were able to reflect on the importance of friendship.
Yeah, huge.
And my friend group varied. Okay, so we had guys who were scholars, we had guys who were kind of in between, and then had a couple guys who were into some other things, right?
Right.
But the general approach to friendship amongst all those guys from different backgrounds and different interests was empowerment.
Yep.
And it's like, listen, I'm going to make sure that I do my thing, make sure that I have my grades together. And if you're going to hang with us, I kind of expect you to do the same thing. And if school isn't your thing, just keep empowerment in the circle,
Right.
because everyone, they're not school people. So it's like, let's just continue to raise the bar for each other
Right.
wherever your bar is. And the crew of guys that you rolled with during that time, we were all aligned, we were all cool, but I was peeping how you guys were getting down. I was like, man, yeah, that's the blueprint.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody has to hold each other up, because at some point in time somebody's gonna fall and they're gonna need a crutch.
Absolutely.
So who's up next?
Absolutely. I've
Yeah.
fallen many of times. And my dogs to this day, whether it doesn't matter how big or how small the fall is, you got to be able to be vulnerable in those spaces. And so,
Yeah.
the guys that I roll with, the inner core of them, I'm fortunate to say I've been riding with these guys since like second grade, dog. You know what I mean? Like, so like
Unreal.
my core group of friends, like the guys that are not wildering and not changing. There's nothing we can't accomplish with each other. There's nothing we can't check between each other. These guys I've known, they blood can't make us any closer. You know what I mean? As I went throughout the high school space, you become aligned with guys that are like to your point, within the same wavelength. You were either going to
Yep.
uh, scholastically, encourage and push each other up. Athletically, we have some of the same values, and then also,
Yep.
just mentally, your mentality, your ability to, improve and uplift the next man, regardless if that has a educational vertical or athletic vertical. So it's any like-minded individual there. You have a lot of things that you align with, and then there are certain things where you differ, but that's why you guys are naturally with each other to help, balance that circle. And I feel like I have a
Yeah.
very good, strong balance from good people I've been with that, in Orangeburg, from the community. And I mean, honestly, we still kind of, rap today, although everybody has their own life and things are going,
Yeah.
everybody's going 100 miles per hour trying to, accomplish their own personal goals. At the end of the day, when the opportunity presents itself, we still get together, we still chop it up, and it's like we never left. I got
Yeah.
brothers
Yeah.
I got brothers out there like Aaron Hare is like a podiatrist right now. You know what I mean? Out in Florence. I got Matt Tom, who's an entrepreneur. I got, my boy T
Yeah.
Sweat, who's an entrepreneur. My boy Ralph Fred just got two of his movies that he worked on. He's worked on tons of movies. Two of them just dropped on the same day on HBO Max and Amazon Prime. I got guys that are doing great things, but sometimes it's just the tech.
Shout out to you, Ralph. I got a story coming
My
on
dog,
another episode for you, man. I already recorded it, man. I got you in there, Ralph. But go ahead,
my
Steve. Sorry to
dog.
cut you
Nah,
off,
you
man.
good, man. But those are my guys. I got my boy Smitty, who's a very talented basketball coach and youth advisor and administrator out in the community in Columbia. So everybody has a different role. We could come together and throw a party, or throw a cookout, or a kickback, and shout the proper kickback, or we could do anything to where we're bringing people together to really just have a good time. And my guys and my brothers, and we certainly keep each other motivated through and through.
Yeah, and yeah, we're gonna talk about proper kickback, man. We have to talk about that because I was actually there for the annual event. We'll talk about that
Yeah,
later.
yeah, yeah.
But so we kind of pushing forward through the
Yep.
story, and we know about the importance of your social life and your friend circle. What did you learn from playing college football? And this is why I'm asking. It's not college football. Playing football at OW. This is why I'm asking. I'm asking because a lot of the things that we learn in sports are very transferable to the professional world.
Yeah.
So we're talking about work ethic, we're talking about accountability, we're talking about taking criticism. All of these things are transferable to what we're going to be doing away from the sport. So tell me what you learned just playing OW football, Orangeburg Wilkinson football.
It's so funny that you asked that because I was watching another podcast. I don't know how I came across it. Fell into the hole in Facebook, and it was some clips from Woody on there. And Woody's my guy. And Woody at the
Mm,
time when I was a young kid,
the
yeah,
legend.
obviously legend. Like legendary doesn't even that's not even where you end with Woody. But he's what I grew up watching, and so that was the standard, right? So I'm a young kid. I'm watching these guys, and orange and maroon play this football game, and then there's awareness as you get older to the legacy and the tradition. And, I got uncles and family members that played on the team. But then you come across guys throughout the time of your youth that brings you back together. Like you said, we had city league football together, and then there are other guys that I played
Yep.
city league football and I've always competed against. And
Mm-hmm.
80 to 90% of the time, chance you're going to come to OW together, and if we're in the same age group, we're going to play together. Or
Yep.
it was challenging because I only had city league sports. I didn't have like a football team at my middle school, so I felt like I was kind of like behind a lot of the guys that were coming into the program from the summer prior to just
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
because of the program was instilled in middle school. So for me, playing football in high school was, you know, defeating the odds when everything against you is stacked not in your favor. Knowing your role and doing your job well and focusing on your role for the greater good of the team, uh, being a listening ear to your teammates. Everybody has a different background. Everybody has different problems. Being able to listen as much as, listening is a huge part of leadership. So like,
Yeah.
hearing that, whether it be a guy that may not have a ride to practice, you know what I'm saying? But you hear them out and you see what they got going on. And then you build a bond, like, yo, I'll pick you up or I'll take you home every, whatever,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
those type of things being willing to be a total team player, that type of stuff is invaluable as you go through. And I want to say that type of stuff. Those type of qualities are invaluable as you go through the walks of early stages of life, and you kind of adapt it into the workforce, and things of that nature. So, for me, playing on OW was obviously an honor, and it's a certain level of tradition that you want to uphold. It's creating and living through your own stories, and then building relationships in high school and cultivating them, so that you're at a place where you want to fight for the guy to your right and to your left in order to achieve that goal. And to this day, like I get together with some of the guys I play ball with, and we're laughing about things that happened freshman year, sophomore year. And we
Yeah.
still have,
Yep.
we've been in each other's weddings. We some of us have vacationed together. Um, so those bonds and those memories you created, early on in high school, you don't know in the time that they're going to live with you throughout your life.
Yeah.
Obviously you're creating memories, but you just don't know how, when you're in that moment, when you're in the trenches, when you're crabbing, when you're competing, when you're practicing, when you're lifting weights, how those memories can come back and affect you right now. And for me, those qualities that I mentioned earlier, along with just keeping your head when there's chaos around you, those are the type of
Woo.
qualities.
That's a big
That's a
one
huge one. That one, bro.
because that applies to life too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
When your life is in shambles,
yeah,
like how can you center
yeah,
yourself and just kind of find your way?
yeah,
It's all about the preparation. It's all about having poise. It's a number of different things that come into play, especially when you playing football, you playing basketball, you playing tennis. Your mind has to be warped in a
yeah.
way that you can't succumb, or at least you're more trained not to succumb
Right,
to
right,
chaos.
right. No, your head has to be as stable as possible. And in the game of football, 4A football, predominantly black high school, one of the biggest high schools during our time. We were 4A. Um,
Yeah.
we came out of the Big 16 and went into the 4A, Division two, whatever they called it back then. But either way, we were competing at the highest level with some of the best athletes in the state. And when you're practicing and grueling, two times a day in the summertime, sometimes three times a day in the summertime. I don't even know if that was legal, but when you're
It
when
did.
you practicing like that, and,
Listen, man, that's actually one of the reasons why I stopped playing football, Steve. You know, I had a short stint in high school,
dog,
and then we played White Knoll one night, and it was like the Ice Bowl. We had a ball; it was fun, but I think at that moment I said, you know what? I'm gonna go back into the gym, and
but you know what's funny, Rob? So I can honestly sit here and say I don't remember going head to head with you like that in middle school. I mean, it had to be elementary, and middle school. But I will say
mhm.
one thing I will not forget, dog. So now let me tell a story. Can I tell a story for a second? Just
The floor is yours, my
please
brother.
allow me to tell a story right quick. Now, when you reached out, he's like, "Yo, dog, join the pod." I was like, "Man, okay." I guess I'm thinking like, what kind of stories can I tell on this podcast, man? So I remember you playing football, probably your sophomore year,
Yeah,
right? So look,
yeah.
look, 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 look. If it wasn't sophomore year, it probably was your freshman year, my sophomore year.
It was ninth grade.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
it was your 10th grade year.
okay, bet okay. So I know sophomore stuck out to me. Okay, so my 10th grade year, right? So I'm coming into practice. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make a name for myself, trying to separate from the what I thought was just a regular B team freshman year, mediocre, start behind the curve type of deal. So I'm trying to, between my ninth grade and my 10th grade year, physically for me was probably it's going to sound crazy. It's probably the biggest leap I had, like physically, because I was
Okay,
trying to overcompensate in the weight room for my knee injury I had in eighth grade. And it was the
okay.
first time I was exposed to going into a gym and having access to weights, all
Right,
whatever.
right, right,
So I
right,
spent a lot
right.
of time. That was the Coach Brown thing. Like, you're going to lift, you're going to be strong. Right. So I'll never forget this, dog. I think it was like spring practice, I believe. We had shells on.
Yeah.
And Rob, you were a receiver, and I think you were probably in the slot because I was playing corner, and I know I was lined up on the left side. So either I was in the slot or I was wide out left. But I do remember covering
Uh
you, and I do remember. I'm not sure who your quarterback was, but you hit me with a double move. But we were young, so it was like a stop and go.
yeah.
Um,
If I'm in the slot, I kind of know the play. Like it's probably like an out and
Out
up
and
or
up, a
something
little
like
wheel
that.
route.
Like,
I didn't bite on nothing
yeah.
underneath. I came over top, but I was being nosy, looking in the backfield, and I looked up at the ball, and I looked up at it, and I went to contest the catch, and I'm like, "Who is this freak of an athlete, young kid come?" And it was like, bro, I remember like it was yesterday. It was like you went up, and my hands was here, you just took it right there, and then you came down.
Yeah.
I was like, I was like, do it again, dog, do it. I was so salty, bro. I was like, oh, I was like, listen, man. Here I am trying to be the big time sophomore, freshman kid come up, out athletic me. I didn't even know, like, I knew the mystique of Rob. Rob could dunk in eighth grade, or Rob is
Yeah.
athletic freak. But I'm like, man, ain't nobody about to come out here and outdo me. Not no freshman. I know we doing like ones versus twos or something like that. I don't know what it was. But I remember getting beat, bro. And
Yeah.
let me tell you something about a corner. Everybody says if you play corner, you should have a short memory. But nah, bro. I can remember vividly like probably three or four big plays that are never like escaped my memory throughout high school, and that was one
Yeah.
of them. So you got me back, dog. You definitely.
Hey, listen. In my short high school football career, I appreciate that story, and I remember that game, and I was pretty successful. And for me, I'm not even gonna lie, because I had done it with basketball. I skipped B team, and I went to play JV in basketball. I was trying to do the same thing in football, but I don't think a lot of people know this. I think all of the coaches were in cahoots because they were like, "Nah, fam." I don't even think any of, especially none of my basketball coaches, they didn't even want me to
No,
play
not at all.
football. They didn't want me to
once you're
play.
at that level, they're like, nah, bro, we don't got time for you over here. Like, we could be developing you, and we don't need you to like risk breaking or hurting any limbs while you are clearly a
Yeah,
talented basketball player. They weren't
dude,
having that,
dude,
man.
I knew the fix was in when I went to one of the coaches because I played quarterback kind of coming
Yeah,
up. and I always had a pretty high
Right.
Q. Excuse me, a pretty high IQ, and I felt like I was made for the quarterback position. And I went and asked one of the coaches on the team, like, man, I'm at
Right.
receiver. I can go help at quarterback. If you guys want to. And the coach told me straight up, I forgot his name, man. Cool dude. He was like, "Do you see what that quarterback is going through every single play? It's like hype. Boo, he's getting hit." And that coach was like, "You want that to be you? Son, do you want that to be you?" And I was like, "I just want to help the team." He was like, Go over there and run these routes. All right." And after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just hoop, man.
Right. Look, what
I didn't take it personal, because he was actually trying to help me,
I
right?
mean, Rob, and
But
I think it worked out, bro. I think you are,
I
you
think
know,
so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I ain't tripping. I'm not tripping. I'm not tripping, man. All right, Steve. So we kind of pushing forward through the story,
yeah,
man. So graduation is
yeah,
approaching. What's in your head? Do you have multiple options? Do you know exactly what you want to do? Like what's happening as high school graduation is approaching?
man. So talk about coming into freshman year and not having as solid of a plan. I would say my junior to my senior year is where I really figured it out. And
Did you want to play college football?
no, I didn't really have much of a desire to play college football. It's partially because where I was going, uh, where let's call it what it is. Like high school football and football in general, I was good, decent. I played,
Yeah,
started, all that
yeah,
stuff. But like, I knew it wasn't it wasn't something that was gonna, carry me into a different career. Like I knew I wasn't NFL, obviously pro ball, bound, and I didn't think that college was for me either, simply because of the physical toll and the inability to really hone in on my skills at that higher level to compete with some of the
yeah. And you had already had a pretty tough injury
yeah, like that
early on. You know what I
that
mean?
part too is like, do I really want to put myself through this? And honestly, it might have been those 2, 3 days that like, you know what, I'm good. And but nah,
Yeah,
seriously, one of my coaches went a long way to get me out there on the field at North Carolina when I decided I was going to go to A&T. Coach Sistrunk, Lord rest his soul, and he was doing a
yeah.
great job getting me in touch with some people out there at A&T. And I just told him one day, I was working at the mall at the time. I was like, man, sis, I don't think I'm a pursue it, dog. I'm gonna try to get up there my freshman year, see how I adjust, and then maybe I'll see. But I didn't make the incorrect choice, because during my time at the great North Carolina A&T, we were not that
North Carolina A and
yeah,
T. Can I tell a story about
we
A
were not
and
that
T?
good.
So first of all,
Yeah,
man, I talked to Davey Rickenbacker about this as well. Both of us were trying to get into A&T. He had an opportunity to get in. I didn't, but I really wanted to go. This is when I knew. I mean, Catawba treated me very well. I'm very happy with my time at
right.
Catawba. But I remember the first time that I came to A&T to see you guys. My friend Zach
Yeah,
Thomas,
yeah, yeah,
ZT. He was at Winthrop. He drove up to Salisbury, snatched me up in his
yeah.
car, and we drove to Greensboro for homecoming. And
Yo,
I, yeah, I don't know what to expect at the time. And this is undergrad
yeah,
homecoming, by the way. So it's
yeah,
different,
yeah.
right? So we get up to Greensboro, and I don't know what to expect. At that time, I'm a pretty chill guy. I ain't going too crazy. But what I'm not going to go into details about the party. But what I will say is that house party was
Oh yeah.
amazing, and it went all night. I think we went to bed when the sun came up. We slept for an hour, and ZT and we had to go back because I had practice or something like that. But at that moment in time, Steve, I think I might have said to myself, "Yeah, I'm glad I ain't here."
Yo, so let me before I comment on that, I'm gonna fully answer your questions. I definitely danced around it. So leaving high school, I knew I wanted to go to A&T because I was involved in the yearbook staff at OW. So I was into like writing for the sports section of the paper,
Oh
all that
wow. All
stuff,
right. All right.
misspellers. Like I was
Yeah.
exposed to that like probably since my junior first semester junior year through my senior year. So when I discovered my love and enjoyment from like writing for the paper and designing that type of stuff and doing all that, I was like, well, shit. Excuse me. I said I should approach.
It's fine.
I was like, yo, I should look into some schools and make sure I'm applying somewhere that has a strong journalism program. And so actually Winthrop was one of the colleges that I got accepted to, but I decided obviously not to go. Obviously South Carolina State, Claflin, they all had decent journalism programs. But it was when I visited North Carolina A&T during their university day in the spring of my junior year was when I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. Like I just saw the energy, the family, the aura, the pride of being an Aggie, what that university looked like then, and all the energy that I experienced throughout that weekend. It was a no brainer. So I applied to A&T. I applied to other schools, obviously, but by the time it's time to graduate, it was two things I was focused on at the time, and that was uh, finding and creating a relationship with my dad before I left South Carolina, and then
Okay.
going into college with the understanding I'm going to pursue a certain dream, and my big goal was I'm going to leave college and I'm going to work at ESPN one day in the journalism world. So those were my uh, those are my two goals upon entering the graduation season for high school. And the first goal was, I checked the box. It's cool. It happened. The second goal definitely happened, and so I'm thankful to have gotten into A&T and set myself up for long term success and lifelong, excuse me, friends from the time.
Okay. So, Steve, this is an awesome segue because you said you wanted to work for ESPN way
Yeah.
back. Okay. So it's a great segue to where we're going. So you're in college, you're at A&T, life's good, you're building relationships. What was ESPN the first option coming out of
No.
college? Like tell me your story. Tell me how you go from Stephen Morrison, Lil Corey
Right.
to ESPN. Like what's happening in that period of time
Um.
leading up to
Yeah.
graduation and going to ESPN?
Yeah, so it was a lot actually. It's not as simple as it sounds. So in college I was working at came to college working at Belt, department store, whatever. Left that department store and I had an opportunity to level up my sales or retail experience to the cell phone world. And so I started working at Verizon Wireless um in Greensboro. And so from like '07 until
You were definitely my liaison at Verizon.
yeah.
I've there were a couple of times that I was like,
Yo,
"Yo,
let me
Steve," asking questions.
got some stuff. Hey, look, you and everybody else, man, it was a good time. I got in there when, the BlackBerry was at the peak and then the iPhone came into the world and then nothing was the same, right? So, I was
Yep.
there, at Verizon from '07 until early 2010. And for the most part, that carried me through college. And so while I was doing that, obviously I still had certain things to do within my major to accomplish your degree, and one of which was having an internship at a local news station. And so that was my first taste of real live broadcast news. And I'm talking like this is my uh, going into my senior year, my junior year going into my senior year. And so that was a great experience. And I had joined, and I was fortunate enough to go to this NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists
Right.
Conference.
Right.
And so this was the Unity Conference that was happening in Chicago. And, there is where I was able to network with a lot of people from ESPN, from other networks, as well as I get ready to embark into the professional postgraduate, space. And so going to Chicago gave me a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities, like I said, to network and to kind of put my name out there. And, I settled on some of those contacts for a year. And so when I leave college and we graduate, I take a new job with Verizon. I'm able to transfer, get promoted. And you got a degree now, you're assistant manager, and then you go and went into
Right.
a store manager role out in Eastern North Carolina. And that was great, and it was good money. You're talking 2009. I'm living at the beach. I'm 21 years old. Like I'm making the most money I've made in my life, and I was not happy at all. Right? Like
Wow.
I I was
Wow.
at a crossroads uh, professionally at a very young age. But I'm like, am I going to do? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Like, is this it? I'm managing. I'm
That's
man.
big. That's
Yeah,
big.
because I'm in a tough spot. I'm managing people, some of which are old enough to be my parents, and there's resistance there that I got to go and turn over a staff and then hire new people, and then there's resistance there, and then so I'm also chasing these numbers for sales. I'm like, this was great, but is it really what I want to do long term? And this is not. I just didn't want to get too comfortable with the money, and then to the point where I have
You stuck.
outaged myself right from getting into the business.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I really just took a risk, and I did a cold email on one of those cards I had from the NABJ conference. And while it was not received that well, it was able to actually help me throughout the process. It kind of gave me a knockoff of my pedestal, so to speak. You think you're going to be always get the
Did some confidence come with that?
yes,
Like just because it's something about having a task that you really don't want to
right?
do, and you just, especially kind of putting yourself out there in a cold
Oh yeah,
email. And when you do it, even if it's not received well, it's just like I took the risk. I
right.
did it. What how does the saying go? How did Michael Jordan say
You
it?
miss all
You miss
of the
100%
shots you
of the
don't take.
shots you don't
Right.
take.
Hey,
And you didn't let
if
the
if it's one thing I do well, Rob, I will take a shot in the dark, dog. I don't care. I am a risk taker. I will. It's the foundation of everything that has happened to this point of my career. To be honest with you, and it's all going to make sense. It's all going
yeah,
to make a little sense as we continue to uncover. But like I said, it was. I got on Twitter one night, and back then Twitter was a comedy zone. People getting tweets off, no verification. People just,
yeah.
you kind of reacted. We all watching something together, and a recruiter found me on Twitter. We built a relationship. Turns out she was at the Unity conference, but we didn't spend a lot of time together. And I kind of started piecing my story together. Like, hey, I sent a blind email here, nothing really happened. That was like a couple months
Uh-huh.
ago, and now here I am, looking to take a risk and get into the business that I ultimately went to school for, and what was my ultimate goal was to get here. And by the way, while at A&T, I had an internship opportunity with ESPN before I went to this journalism conference. Didn't get the internship because I didn't know enough about baseball scoring. But that's you
Okay,
know
so what's the story behind that?
funny.
You didn't know enough about
Didn't know enough about
baseball.
baseball. I knew enough about. I thought I knew enough about baseball, but the questions that they asked me at the time were really, really baseball intense. And so it was like they wanted me to name like a 5-3-2 double play. So the ball goes out to right
Yeah.
field, it's a can of corn, he throws it to first, and they throw it.
Yep.
So what happens? And so I'm
Uh-huh.
just sitting there like, wait a minute, say that again. so and
Excuse me.
right,
Uh
can of corn, right field. What? It there was some a steep competition for the internship, and unfortunately, I didn't get it. But what's funny, the guy that interviewed me for that internship, I never forgot his name. When I first started working there as a production assistant, I definitely went over and pulled him to the side. I was like, "Hey man, you probably don't remember this, and I know you talk to a lot of people, but you interviewed me for an internship a year and a half ago. At this point, it's about a year and a half ago. Yeah." And I was like, I
right.
didn't get it because I didn't know enough about baseball. And I was like, from that moment forward, I did nothing but study baseball. So, and I get it. I didn't understood it then, but I said if I ever came back in front of ESPN, I'm not going to let baseball be the reason why. I'm not gonna get an opportunity to work there. And you know, it's the longest running sport, and it's what they cover day in and day out. And for the
Yep.
interns and the production assistants, you're gonna be screening baseball games like more than you ever screened anything before in your life. So
In the down season of football and basketball, you know, when the teams are in spring training and OTAs and
yeah,
stuff, baseball is full
exactly,
swing.
exactly. And so we had a lot of rights to baseball, and even a lot of partner broadcast agreements as well. So it was like it was inevitable. So I learned the game, and that was a funny story then. But it opened up my eyes early, and so that coupled with missing the internship, coupled with not getting an answer on a cold email that I thought I did a very good job of introducing myself to finding someone in the social space that remembered uh, at least remembered seeing me or interact with the group of students I was with from A&T during that Unity conference, but saw enough in me to build a relationship. So it took another year for us, to cultivate this relationship. So now it's 2011, and so this is where I was able to grace the doors or the campus of ESPN rather in June 6th of 2011. So took about a strong 2 years to get there, but it was like a very touch and go scenario.
Man, imagine, Steve, if you took them not answering your emails, or if you took that, those baseball questions personally, and you allowed it to make you sour on the business. Just imagine what could have happened had you approached it that
Nah, but
way.
Rob, but
What you
Rob,
did was you got the information and you ate it. You were like, nah, I need to
but
get
it
better.
goes back to what we talked about the high school stuff, man. This is what this is where it all that's the
Yes, sir.
foundation of it. Like you've
Yep.
been told you can't do something. You're being mentally and physically challenged. Okay, so this is
Yep.
my set. These are the cards I'm dealt. Let me go back to the drawing board. Let me write a plan.
Ah,
Let me write a plan. Look, I'm a huge whiteboarder. I got a whiteboard sitting right here with my whole week in front of me. So let me go back to the whiteboard. Let me see where I failed, and let me make sure I don't fail there again. Or let me connect more dots. Let me expand. Let
whew,
me expand the lines on the web so I can make sure that I'm making enough connections to pretty much make that other person that I'm dealing with feel like they are doing themselves a disservice if they don't, you know,
right.
want to have engage in
Precisely.
conversation with me. So look, I can't let that you can't let that stuff throughout life affect you because people are gonna tell you no all the time. You got to be
Yep.
hungry and focused enough to swerve past the no and go get the yes that you want. With
Oh man, I
all
love
things
that.
working in your favor, but
Of
to go
course.
get the yes that you want.
And see, man, that's why I love to do this show because for me, I'm not quite where I want to be post basketball. However, I love to talk to people who are on the they're further down the road. I love speaking with people who have gone through the ups and downs and they've gotten the no's because I'm in that process now. I'm coming from being a professional basketball player 12
Yep.
years to now jumping into a lane where I'm podcasting, I'm creating
Yep.
content. I'm probably gonna get some no's where people are like, well, you don't have enough experience. Well, I'm going back to the drawing board. I'm gonna continue to work. I'm gonna continue to sharpen my craft. And you're one of those people who have experienced it. Of course you got to, you did it earlier. But for me, like to hear this story, like I love this, man. Like I really enjoy hearing these stories. So Steve, so we're gonna push
Mm-hmm.
forward. So you leave
Mm-hmm.
college, you get the opportunity to get the ESPN. What's your feeling walking on the campus for that first time? Are you feeling like I did it? Or is there something else, kind of brewing in your mind? Like what's your approach going into ESPN?
Nah, honestly, man, it's a very similar approach to how it was when I felt or what I felt when I stepped on that football field. Like everything was stacked against me. I'm not supposed to be here. This is this is life changing. So my
Yeah.
shoulders are heavy because I'm now walking through a campus and I'm walking through a space where I'm representing everybody from my community that invested in me. Everybody from
Yep.
my family that kept me on the straight and narrow. Um, you know,
Yeah.
my entire my friend circle, the people I left behind, the people um, that I worked with for so long, and in any capacity, whether it be school or Verizon, everybody that has poured into me in some way, I'm representing them. And so my first day on that campus, my eyes were wide, my smile was permanent, but you
Yeah.
know, it was like I couldn't believe that I was there because the process was so different back then of getting hired. Like it was literally two very strong phone calls, and here's an offer in the mail, here's an offer in email, and then you're like accept the offer, and you get these other phone calls, and then next thing you know, I'm packing up my car and I'm moving up there. So when I'm there, it's like everything just went from zero to a thousand really quick. You know what I mean? It's
Wow.
you know, I don't even know, you know, what's the appropriate dress for real. It's my rookie camp, so like I'm just going there with like, you know, business casual, trying to shake as many hands as possible and not stand out too much. But honestly, man, it was my head was in the clouds for a while, and then once I
Of
got
course.
into it and I realized what the job entailed, I found my way rather quickly, and the rest is history.
But did you? All right. So let me ask you this question, which is, related to you getting into ESPN and finding your footing. Did you have a mentor or a number of people who kind of took you under their wing and said, "All right, Steve, this is what we're
Yeah.
doing."
So early on, I had some people that I could lean into like that. Surprisingly, though, it took me a while to find people that were really strongly influential into my early career success. But it did happen, and it probably happened like probably month number 9. I know it was after my first initial 7 months because my management changed, and I kind of people start to know my name at that point, you know. But it's really hard to also get noticed at ESPN because it's such a strong revolving door at the grassroots level, the entry level. So
Right, right, right. They probably see a ton
they
of
see a
people
ton,
come in
people
and
coming,
out,
and they last. Some people last 2, 3 months. You know that winter hit you in Connecticut, and you know everybody. You know you can't be moving from Florida
out
to
of here.
yeah. So, but you know, nah. Close to my end of my first year, I had a really good manager. Two of them actually. One, you know, her name was actually Amina Hussein. She was amazing early on. She kept it 100 with me early on, and then I would say going into my second year, my biggest mentor was my director at the time, and we're actually still doing business together right now. So um,
Awesome.
it took a while to find the type of energy um, that would align with my work ethic and the leadership that I was particularly looking for. But once I found it, I knew exactly what it looked like. So, you know, there are other people that played a huge role in my development. But as far as like mentorship, somebody I would go to and say, how do I, structure my career plan to make sure I'm not falling into a 3 or 4 year trap to where I'm not being as progressive or productive as I should. And so Amina, Lisa, my boy Omar, um, a lot of other folks in the talent space really helped develop me in that manner.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I asked that question is because for all of us, where it doesn't matter where our professional lives go, we need someone to help us to help show us the
Right,
ropes. And we could be the most prepared people ever. There, there's nuance to success at times. There's certain things that you just need to
right,
know. It's not about a book all the
right.
time. There's certain things that you need to say. There's certain people you need to talk
Yep.
to. That's the reason why I asked that question. Because ESPN is huge, and like you said, it's not a very big turnover. There are a lot of people coming in and coming
Yeah.
out. Especially on the bottom
Yeah.
level, and for you starting, it's a revolving door. Excuse me, a revolving door for a lot of people. So I'm going to pivot to
Okay.
this, right? And this is something that I'm always interested to hear because I've had some experiences, but you've had a ton. So tell me about your most exciting memory at ESPN because you've been around. You've been to many different events. You've been around many different people. What are what is one, or if you want to share more, I mean, the floor is yours. But what's some of those moments that you experienced that you said, "Wow."
Man, that's a tough one to answer. Mm. Uh, I think okay. I think there was a time in like 2013, maybe 2014. I think it was around NBA All Star. Um, I was I was tasked with planning a full day of media with Magic Johnson and
The
the
Magic
Magic
Man.
Man, and I think, and I'm pretty sure it was around that time because he was doing a tour at different universities for Black History Month, and he had either just left South Carolina State or he was going. He had just left Orangeburg or he was going to Orangeburg. I think he had just left Orangeburg.
I remember that time.
Yeah, yeah,
That was a real
yeah. It
big
was a
deal.
huge deal. Yeah. So it's funny how it aligned because I want to say he had just left because I had just read the TND and I'm running through my notes and my planning schedule of his media day. And when we get together within the first few minutes, I was like, man, you just left my backyard. You just left Orangeburg, and then immediately we just had a 5-10 minute conversation, not related to anything ESPN, but about the city of the Berg and what he thought was a place that had a lot of opportunity, and some of the names that he mentioned that he dealt with while he was there that resonated with me because being a community guy. Um, that really made him comfortable and made him feel like he had knew someone more than just meeting him for the first 5 to 10 minutes. And while he
Right,
did
right.
work at ESPN before, there was some comfort there. But it's always different when you leave and you come back and you got to do this day full of media, and we got to go to these different studios and have all these different conversations and meetings and luncheons in between. From that moment, from me having that conversation early on, it totally changed the dynamic of our time spent. And so it was a very, very good day. And I think it was the day where I really realized I was good at my job in that aspect, like of just knowing and doing my research and making people feel comfortable and getting the best of the best athletes to showcase across the platforms. It made me realize that, okay, I can settle down a little bit. Because again, for me, this is early on in my talent production career. This is like my
Hmm.
first initial year in this role, permanently, no longer moonlighting or nothing. And so I'm just like, okay, I might have a little future in this. And so time went on. I think my next biggest or most memorable moment was doing the first national championship, spending time in the VIP area. And, I think the first one was in Arlington. So this is Ohio State and Oregon.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, this is
But I can imagine what it's like to mix and mingle in that
oh, it's different. It's different.
environment. It's totally different because it's an acceptance thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in that
Yep.
room, you're in that room for a
Yep.
reason.
Yep.
So people are a little bit more
Yeah.
likely
Get a
to
get a
interact with you.
conversation with everybody. Everybody want to know your story, man. And the business is small, and so what I realized early on is that while these spaces are very unique, and these national championship here, women's final four there, NFL draft here, first take on the road there, the rooms are relatively very similar. The VIP experiences are very similar. So if you do good business and your name continues to pick up steam and equity, the people that are in those rooms that are not, at ESPN, but they're in the marketplace, they're gonna know who you are. And then that avenue and that communication lane just gets wider and more fluid and more fluid. And before you know it, you've established yourself as a very sought after person because they know that you do good
Yeah.
business and you're in the room and you make things happen. And so that's what I learned early was that being in those VIP rooms, one, rub the right elbow, shake hands and kiss enough babies, but two, and not to sound too cliche, but two, make sure you actually master the art of the follow up. Don't just leave the conversation at the party. Like follow up and then have substance to follow up
Okay.
with.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah, that's game
that's
right
what
there.
separated me a little bit as far as that's concerned. And once I figured that out, you can't keep me out of New York City.
I'm
Yeah, I'm
here
here.
taking my bite out of
Look,
the
this is all the
apple.
networking happened, right? So at that point, I was like, let me just go to the city because that it's not Connecticut is where it's happening. It's as much time I can spend in the city, in the industry, and with the right people, then I can separate myself from everybody else that I'm working with. Not that we're competing that hard or that strongly, but we are in a sense. And I could just kind of make my own name in the marketplace. And so that's what I did. And like I said, that Magic Johnson moment gave me the assurance that I could do this job. And then networking, I just started winging it and coming up with my own methodologies that worked and stayed forward.
Listen, Steve, I've seen you capture a room, and to be honest with you, I think for a long time in my own situation, I don't feel like I networked enough. And it's not because it's not that I had an ego. It's more about shooting that
Yeah, yeah,
shot. I didn't want to feel like someone was sunning me. But see, that's
right.
emotion, and I don't necessarily feel like emotion and business are intertwined. Not all the time. And for me now, because I'm just going into a different place in my
Right.
life, I'm ready for that networking situation where maybe I feel uncomfortable, but our comfort zone has always been the detriment of mankind. You have to be able to step out of your comfort zone and just say, listen, I'm just going to speak to this person,
That's
and
it.
that's
All they
it.
could do is
Like,
tell you yes
I'm
or
not even
no.
going to take
They
it
could tell you
personal.
yes or no, man. I mean, come with substance. Your approach is going to always change, but at the end of the day, you know, you want to put yourself in that position. You actually want to feel uncomfortable. That was the only thing that made me okay with staying in Connecticut. That I knew that at some point I was uncomfortable enough that at some point I was going to change it, but I wanted to make sure I changed it when everything made sense, when the timing felt right, when the opportunity felt right, and not just to be changing and walking away because I was just that much uncomfortable, but to allow that feeling of being uncomfortable, allow it to manifest in his own space. Like it's okay. Like I know that I don't like this. I don't
Right.
like the snow. I don't like these things, but I am going to still push forward. But this is going to be a reminder that this is not the end.
Yeah.
And as long as you are able to distinguish, how much of an uncomfortable feeling you could bear with before you can just compartmentalize, set it to the side, and stay focused. As long as you can do that, then you're good. But for you, dog, I will honestly say, if you felt uncomfortable to put yourself out there, then you recognize that was a challenge for you. But once you did it and it worked, then you're less inclined to hesitate the next time, right?
Yep. It's the hesitating for me, man. I told this story not too long ago. I had a lot of hesitation because I don't know. I don't even think it's necessary, but I had to feel
Right.
that. Now I know I can't hesitate at this
Yeah.
point in the game. I got to be about my business, and we just going to make sure that we're
Yep.
prepared, and that's all I can do. I'm prepared. I'm going after it. If it don't work out, we keep it pushing, man. Because I got some things I want to do,
That's
man.
real.
You know what I
When you
mean?
shoot those shots, the people that actually remember you the most are the ones that were not able to find a common ground or give you a solution at the first shot. But some of those people are smart enough to know that they need to keep their eyes on you because they feel the talent, they feel the energy coming from you, right? And this has happened to me before, where maybe the shot you took doesn't work out in that moment, but then down the line, they're watching and they're seeing you grow and develop, and then all of a sudden, you guys circle right back around because again, the industry in my world, the sports ecosystem is, like I said, is relatively small. So that tends to happen a lot. So that's why sometimes you can't take that first no. You still can't take that first no personal because it just the timing may not just be right. But as long as you keep
Right.
shooting,
No doubt. All right. So Steve, we talked a little bit about the ups. Let me hear about some of the, not struggles, but some of the challenges that you deal with working in this entertainment industry. What are some of the challenges? And I mean, I could say, what's a challenge from a guy, a black man from South Carolina? I could go that far, but what are some of the challenges that you have faced in this realm that you're in?
um, self motivating. You have to continue to self motivate yourself. Everybody's going to tell you you're doing excellent, you're doing great, and they're proud of you. But that
Gotcha,
that
gotcha.
can't be that. Everybody's going to tell you that. you gotta stay motivated beyond those affirmations. Um, I sometimes struggle, with well, I used to. I don't really have this problem anymore, but in the past, I used to struggle with keeping myself motivated. And from the outset, I never really appeared complacent, but inside,
Yeah.
when it's just me or I'm in my personal space, I would struggle with continuing to be motivated to keep pushing forward. If sometimes it would
Wow.
feel like I was just getting up, getting ready to run on a constant spindle and just go and jump off of it, get rest, eat, sleep, whatever, and go do it again. Until I figured out what really drove me, um, I saw myself getting lost a little bit in the early stages of the game. But
And I mean, it's interesting to hear that, man, because that's a very honest statement about yourself. It's very
yeah,
honest
I mean,
because what success really? What is it? Like, is it
it
money?
depends on how you measure
Because
it.
you already said, right, you already said at one point in time, in your early time, you were getting
Yeah,
money, but you were still very unhappy. Um, could success be measured in the things that we have? Could it be, awards or whatever? I think success should be a continuing
I agree.
goal. Like once I knock down this goal, like like you are right now, what's
Right,
next? Like straight up, what are we doing next? Like what? Because I I don't I've never really felt this way in basketball because I'm a pretty hard critic of
yeah,
myself. And now on the back end, I'm saying to myself, well, I did do some cool stuff, but when I'm in the grit and the grind of it
right,
all, I haven't done
right.
enough. So it's interesting to hear you and your very honest take on, yeah, man, sometimes I feel like, I did it.
Right. And
Like,
it's not even some of it is that, but some of it is just like I don't feel like doing this today, but I know that I could give less than 50% and be fine and not and then get
mm,
stuck into that
mm,
thought process. And that's where the lack of self-motivating comes in.
gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
but
Gotcha.
but but sometimes it is exactly what you said. Sometimes it's like I just came off of a really good production shoot and it's like I'm good, man. Like what's next? I don't know. Like
Vacation.
yeah, like
Nah, yeah.
but it's I'm so focused right now, like, you know, and I know we're talking like we're kind of playing this timeline game, but kind of fast
Yeah, for
fast
sure.
forwarding like right now, like I'm so motivated and focused by different factors. Like that old thought process is so far beyond me. Like right now, my challenges are uh, overworking to make sure I don't burn myself out, although I feel great. But making sure I take my rest, stepping away from the projects that are hot right
Yep.
now, being okay with stepping away from them, and then coming back to them and knowing that I can still perform. Because a lot of times, as of late, I've been able to achieve and set a goal and go get it, and that can become addicting, right? And so you start taking on more
And
projects.
you'll always be chasing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. And so now I'm trying to find the balance so that yes, I'm getting very unique projects thrown my way. Can I physically and mentally take them on? Do I have the bandwidth or do I have the resources around me to execute them at a high level? Um, it's the challenges of being okay with saying no, being okay with
Ooh, that's a big
yeah,
one.
being okay with checking myself so that I don't come across burnout. So I'm efficient or inefficient across my entire portfolio, and then I'm no good. And then it's also just making sure I keep the people around me happy with the moving around and the meetings and the nonstop Zooms and phone calls. Just making sure I'm able to take out time and be intentional into my personal life, and that's been a challenge as well. But um, it understanding a challenge is just recognition. So now that I recognize those things, just taking forth the action to improve them, and
Yep.
hopefully, things to keep going in the right direction where they will continue to improve.
Yeah, I mean, in today's society, it's a lot of stuff going on that's
It's
really
a lot.
crazy. But one of the things that yep, but one of the things that I do appreciate about society in general is we're starting to connect with our mental space.
Absolutely.
For a lot of people, we're starting to connect with our mental space, and we're starting to take time for ourselves, which should have been the situation a very long time ago. But you kind of get stuck in the rat race
Mm-hmm.
or the hamster wheel, if you will.
Yep.
And I I'm also doing the same thing because I didn't have these mental checkups in a time that I needed them, and I burnt out.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're taking some time out for yourself is really great. All right, Steve. So we talked about some of the challenges. Let's talk about that shiny thing sitting next to your right hand. What does it feel like for Stephen Morrison to receive an Emmy Award?
Um, this honestly is a reminder of what staying in the moment and staying down would do for you. This happened on my last year at ESPN. Not the first nine, or yeah, the first nine years or 8 years, 6 months.
Whew.
We didn't have any hardware to take home. I didn't have any hardware to take home. Obviously we
Right.
won tons of awards and stuff like that, but this is a reminder that when the challenges and the deck is stacked really high, everybody that has poured into you to that moment, they believe in you to be able to overcome those challenges. So,
Yeah.
so, you know, in a global pandemic, there are no sports that are taking on that are happening once we, realize what the coronavirus was, right? And so, I was a
Yeah.
part of a team that was able to go out there and still entertain our fans every single day without any live sports on for longer than I think 8 months, maybe, or something like that. And so what happened was throughout that period, I was able to put, original content from A&T on Sports Center, booking
I remember that.
booking the March of 101, on Sports Center, doing our HBCU month, doing very unique interview bookings, projects to keep our fans entertained. And so the good people at the National Academy of Television of the Arts and Sciences thought well enough to give Sports Center an Emmy for those same challenges for our outstanding studio show 2020-2021, and that's your boy with the producer credit right there. So to be from Orangeburg, South Carolina, you know what I'm saying? That's my girl.
Talk that talk,
To be from
Steve.
Orangeburg, South Carolina,
Tell them.
it is quite the honor because I know that there are at least there are other Emmy winners from Orangeburg, but it's less than 10 of us, I'm sure. So it
Yes.
is this is what the sacrifices in the summer mean to my grandparents, to my family members that took care of me, took me all these other different places to compete and be involved and stay in the right lane. This is for all the Sunday school teachers, the people I went to church with, all those good fine people that have poured into my life. This teachers, this for everybody. When I make this post on Facebook and my friends are widespread across those same people that I just mentioned, those same coaches, those same, teachers, administrators, and community folks that have invested in me, but not just me, but others, excuse me, from the Berg. This represents them. You know what I mean? This is a representation of where I'm from.
Absolutely.
And so it is extremely an honor, and it's funny how things happen. I got the Emmy after I left ESPN, but it physically came in the mail, but I knew I was going to be a recipient of it. But I am extremely thankful for um, the grit and the relationships formed, to get it done, and for everybody that received one, and all of my teammates out there, and all the relationships. Like ESPN is my family. They're always going to be family. I have a great relationship with them. But looking at this piece of hardware, I'm never going to forget my time there, and I'm definitely never going to forget the last year and the hard work it took to accomplish that goal. And SportsCenter had won an Emmy prior to that in quite some time, so it really meant a lot.
Listen, you and your coworkers, the creatives that you share the space with. You all are etched in history, and I gotta say, for me, I can't speak for anybody else. Listen, man, I'm proud of the work that you're doing. And when I saw you holding that Emmy, I was like, yes,
Well,
sir. Like,
appreciate it, bro.
let's go, man. Like that. No,
Well,
that's really, really dope,
we're gonna
man.
win some more if I'm lucky. Hopefully, God willing, we're gonna win some more.
Let's
We're
go.
gonna win some
Let's
more.
go. I'm about manifestation, man. We'll talk. We'll do some manifesting
Yeah,
later on in the episode. So Steve, we're gonna push forward, man. So you're a guy that wears many hats, and in the beginning of the episode, I talked about hunger.
yeah,
So this is where I want to go. You know what I mean? I want to talk about proper kickback. You and your guys, your
yeah,
brothers
yeah.
from another mother, you guys start proper kickback, which provides just a positive experience, a positive party experience. It's not just the food. The food is banging. I haven't had it in a
it's a
while.
catered.
This summer when I come home, I gotta put in order.
It's
But
definitely a
yeah, so tell me about proper kickback.
definitely a catered social experience. The food is a part of it. The human interaction in a digital social world can be difficult, and so we want to create an experience where people want to interact with each other safely. Obviously this was formed long before a pandemic showed its face, but we certainly want to.
But it's right on
But
time. That's crazy,
it's right. It's funny how that
man.
works, right? It
Yeah,
took a couple years for Matt came and we were doing these cookouts, these recipes that we called them back in the day, early 2000s. I say early 2000s, but it's really like 2011, 2012. And so we would do these cookouts once a summer. Like we always like right when the summer's about to end, we'll kind of have this good event. And so Proper Kickback was born out taking that success to another level. And Matt is a long-standing licensed massage therapist, and he wanted to intertwine our ability to entertain, cook good food, and offer certain experiences, whether it be through esthetician care, through his wife, and Obey Essentials, or through Proper Kickback, through the experience of everything that I just mentioned, as far as with our vendors, our food experiences, our massage therapists that work with us, and just making sure people are comfortable and having good vibes at all times and eating well in the process. Playing a card game
yeah,
here. Different venues. We did an event at Stankonia, the legendary Outcast Studio in Atlanta, which is highly attended and very well reviewed and taken in by the good supporters that were there. So we were able to really grow it, and we're still growing, and we're changing the way that we're reaching and allowing to create spaces, rather to create spaces where people can interact and enjoy one another. That's our focus. And so right now, I think we're gonna look to do something over the summer, and hopefully plan something for this GEO that's coming up.
yeah. Listen, man. Can you guys plan something in July, early July? Because I gotta be. I'm gonna be on the bird.
Word.
And every time I will say, man, every time you guys have something, I'm like, dang, like, I wish I could have been there for it. However, I'm gonna take it back. I remember the first event that you guys did. One of the first one. Yeah, this was probably the first one,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was. I don't even know if it was a proper kickback at the time. I think you guys
That was
had
just the
put it
recipe. Yeah, yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah.
The
Colombia.
recipe
Yeah, Colombia, the recipe.
in Colombia.
Yeah.
You this was for a proper kickback. You guys put together the recipe, and I was at one of the first ones. And what I will say, man, is like it was an experience. I might have stayed too late.
Yeah. It was a good
We
time.
had a good
It was a good
time.
time.
It was great energy, great people. It was just a total just experience. So the fact that you guys have laid down the blueprint and made it like real business now is amazing. And when I get home, man, I can't wait
Well,
to get a couple trays going.
I would
You
be
know what I'm saying?
I look, I appreciate you being down for the beginning. And um I would be ashamed, or it would be, I would be remiss if I didn't mention my boy Matt Tom and the hard work he put into it. It birthed Proper Kickback. So It's still
Ooh.
growing. It's still recipes are
I got,
being
I got some
added.
stories with Matt Tom, man. You know, Matt and his family with Sage and his mom, they stayed across the street from my grandma.
Yeah,
And we had some experiences playing basketball, playing video games. Like, man, like, yeah. So the fact that and this kind of goes into what I'm about to go into now. Um, the fact that you guys are doing it together. So some of the people that I really appreciate and I really look up to, I'll be honest, in business are people, and I might miss some people, people like LeBron
yeah,
James, people like Will
yeah,
Smith. You know, like I love the fact that there is a point, man. You know, he's the guy,
yeah,
but he's able to trickle down um what's the word?
yeah,
Responsibilities to friends and family,
yeah,
put them in the correct position, and to see friends and family execute and just be successful in that space and go off to do their own thing. That is something that I strive to do. I want to eat
yeah.
with my brothers. I want to
Absolutely.
eat with my family. Like I want to eat, like not just party and hang out. No, 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 no. Let's build some capital together.
Right.
Let's build ideas together, and we gonna do our thing together. But listen, go off and do your thing too. And when we come back to this table, we eating good. You know, like so the fact that you can share in this moment with your guys, man, like it's super dope.
That's part of the American dream, right? Like, you break generational curses and you do good things with good people, that have some strong shelf life. They have some stability, some legs. And no, like, there are multiple ways in which our different businesses and our passions intertwine or they overlap, and we just try to continue to build them to make sure that the momentum is still pushing forward. Again, goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's about having the right people in your circle that are going to motivate you. So, if Matt Tom is motivated by a proper kickback and he see enough in me, or he saw enough in me to bring me to the table to help add to it, to
Yep.
help push it forward. Okay, so how
Yep.
can we bring in Ralph and okay, now I'm booking Trevor to be our DJ and Stank on you because that's my man's and he's a
Yep.
good DJ.
Yep.
So if I can
Yep.
have one DJ I'm gonna put in this spot, in this space, in this historic grounds of Stank on you, it's got to be my brother because we got it
He
now.
embodies the
Right,
business.
and then he could take his price up, and we could all market together. You know what I'm saying? So
Everything is linked. Yep.
everything is
Yep.
linked up, and that's just all part of the game. So you got to have the right people in your circle pushing you forward, and you got to be able to take that criticism. And I think we do that well, and that's why we're able to sustain and keep pushing forward.
So we're talking about Matt Thomas.
Yeah,
You are also closely in business with his big brother Sage
yeah.
Thomas, which Sage, of course, he was across the
The
street
the
too.
dunk master.
Um,
Yeah,
right. So Sage Thomas, aka DonkMaster,
yeah.
the lead guy at In and Out Customs, he has ascended into the stars in terms of big
Motorsports,
dunk
all that.
racing. For my European
Yeah,
listeners, these are custom cars with big tires on them, but they're really fast.
yeah.
What's the how do you kind of just transfer your abilities at ESPN to what he is now doing or what he was doing at In and Out Customs at that time?
It's really simple. Um, Speaking of your European listeners, number one, I'll go on to talk about broadcast for a second. I think you guys should get Top Gear on the BBC network out there. We'll be in the episode, or Dump Master be in an episode of Top Gear coming on at some point. I don't know.
It's time.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know when.
time.
It
That's going to be
yeah, it
major.
was nice little episode is out there. We brokered that deal over here at the Morrison Group, but no. So seriously, what it is that I'm stupid. What it is that like early on in Sage's career, he wasn't on the internet. He didn't have a presence on the internet. He knew I was going into broadcasting, but he also knew that I wanted to be an agent and or a sports agent. So I went back to get my master's, at the A&T. And so when I went and got my master's, he started to up his popularity and his his influence started to increase tremendously. Right, I'm talking about he's getting like 20,000 new followers on Instagram every 2 months. He's getting these different influencers, these different athletes. Everybody wants to be with him. And, there's other marketing and business development that's starting to happen organically that's taking form. And, he recognized that he wanted somebody to help broker those deals and opportunities, especially in racing. When, in racing, a lot of your success is based off of your sponsors and your partners. And so
Right.
it takes a
Because that'll
certain
afford you the opportunity to get more tools for your car and,
tools,
parts and all
parts, all
this,
these things are very expensive.
resources.
Resources
Yeah.
for sure. You're traveling around from South Carolina to Texas to California to Florida to Georgia. You're doing all this traveling, and so someone has to be there to help make sure the business is always as green as it could be. And so that's my job, is to get into the business of his name, image, and likeness, and make sure that he is being leveraged and compensated, based on the celebrity that he grew organically, through the good advice and consultation over the years, through people like myself, his other manager, his family, his sister, his brothers, and everybody has poured into him positively from day one until now. So I've been down with Sage since the very beginning of In and Out Customs, but I was in Connecticut at the time, learning what I could learn as much as possible at ESPN. But then there was a time where I came back home. Things started to open up around 2016, 2015, 2016. And so when all that stuff started opening up, it was like I just told him exactly what I could do to be a positive, person, in his
An
corner on his
asset.
team, an asset. Yeah, an asset. And then,
Yeah.
it's funny because our worlds are relatively close to being intertwined there as well in this sports marketplace ecosystem, NASCAR, all these projects I was working on, to a degree already at ESPN. I just pivot and just have a different conversation with him, bring in the tools I learned at Georgetown, bring in the tools and the resources I grew throughout my last couple of years at ESPN, and then go into the marketplace for all these different, all this different weaponry that I can go now and leverage for myself and for my clients. And so in his case, it's been a very, very successful business relationship for the last couple of years, and it's only up from here. And we're doing a lot of big things.
Listen, and it's also amazing that so Sage is naturally charismatic.
Yep.
He's a very charismatic individual, and the fact that you all can couple his charisma,
Mm-hmm.
his business acumen, his work ethic, along with your business acumen, your work ethic, and your ability to network, and now makes this amazing relationship, which I'm sure you guys are,
Oh, it's
eating the
dangerous.
fruits.
It's dangerous.
Yeah,
It
you
looks
eat the
from the
fruits,
outs from the outside, those that don't know what's really going on, it looks like we always winning, or we always there's always another positive story coming out, or we're here's the next deal, here's the next partner, and for the racer culture, they don't care about all that. But for us, we know it because we're getting it out the mud, and we're going into these meetings and we're doing these things with no blueprint. We're creating it as we go. It means something. And
Yeah.
all we're doing is taking the growth and the recognition and pouring it right back into the culture to make that experience better. So, Sage is the face. He's going to have haters. He's going to have people that's going to disagree with him. All this, that, and the third. It's my job to keep him level headed and to help his business continue to grow,
Stay the
and to
course.
stay the course. Yeah, like I've been with, he's no different than a pro athlete that's either Hall of Fame bound, or an athlete that may have fallen off their horse and gotten back on, and now they're heading in the right direction. Different stories, different experiences, but like you said, when we all come together, it appears that we're winning a lot, and it's because we are, humbly, but it's because we've been through things individually, and we're bringing all of our resources together, and we're leaving our egos at the door. And so we're
Hmm.
fighting passionately for each other. So if I'm writing 10 deals a day for my 9 to 5, across the athlete marketplace, and I'm learning these different strategies, I'm going to pour right into what I'm doing with Sage personally and make him even more marketable, or even more advantageous to what we're doing together, because I've been through the ringer. I'm already experienced in doing contracts heavy over here. So why wouldn't I take the same knowledge and the same energy and approach the same thing when we get opportunities coming our way? And that's why we're getting licensing deals with the cool name licensing deals through video games, other business endeavors on the West Coast, major business endeavors on the South, creating, his own merch, and,
Hello.
wearing the merch, and doing things that are positive in the racing community to show that, hey, yeah, we're some minorities. This is not traditional racing, but we're organized. We have the NDRA. We have sanctioning bodies in place and marketers in place and investors in place, and we're doing collaborations with, you know huge influencers, rappers, entertainers, other racers. Everything looks right because we're doing it the right way, and because we're doing it for each other. And so that's a part of my portfolio that I really pride myself in a lot, because it's not just a business client, it's family that I'm building with, and it's more
Family,
it's
yeah.
more family involved in what we're doing in this space. And you know everything that we produce and everything that we put out there, it means more to us because we're building it together, and that's important.
Man, I remember having a conversation with Sage at the spot right across the street from South Carolina State.
Yep.
We were there,
Yep.
and we were just breaking bread, building. And he was like, "Man, I got this thing happening, man. This thing is gonna blow up." And he said this a long, long time ago. So
Yeah.
the fact that we're seeing this thing now moving and grooving, it tells you that manifestation is real. So Steve,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go to one of we could bounce around and go to all of the endeavors that you're involved with, but you're now Stephen Morrison, the founder of the Morrison Group consulting agency and marketing firm. I'm reading this because I want to make sure that I don't mess it up.
It's
You know what
good.
I'm saying?
It's good.
So tell me about the Morrison Group.
The Morrison Group is really me taking all the things that we discussed here and putting them in a pot and cooking it. All of my time,
Uh,
my time at Verizon Wireless, my time even taking it back further at Belt, just interacting with people, sales, my time at ESPN, the business of sport, the Rolodex of different athletes and different producers, and then what I'm doing right now, in my present day of procuring athletes for paid campaigns through my 9 to 5, or not my 9 to 5, my full time of One Team Partners. And so the Morrison Group is an LLC that will soon be an escort for business reasons. That I
okay.
that I put into play, that will allow me to go out into the marketplace and leverage my experience, my Rolodex, my influence, my broadcasting experience specifically, and some of my sales experience, and put them all together, and negotiate services that are needed from particular clients that have sought out our expertise, which kind of we stand on the broadcast procurement and signing of talent. We stand on the talent booking and content ideation. We stand on the, overall client management. That client management, for instance, what we just discussed with Sage and business development,
Yep. Yep.
and things and media oversight. So the Morrison Group is a full 360 marketing firm, and based on our negotiations with potential clients, we cater our services to what your needs are, and then we specialize in exceeding those goals at a very fast rate. And so we're just a resource consulting agency, and we pretty much handle a little bit of everything.
Hey man, I love it, man. I love it.
No
It's I
website.
mean,
We're not on the web. No website.
ooh,
I pride myself on that too. We'll have one soon, but that's not important right now.
so y'all pulling up.
Nah, we
It
pulling
ain't no
up.
way.
People know how to find me. The good business I've had thus far, my top tier clients have been humbling and certainly appreciative, but they've come by way of the marketplace and being out into the industry for so long. People move around a lot in this business, and when you do good work, good business karma, as I spoke about earlier, they're going to always remember that. And so when people are in higher positions or different positions, and they know that you are one of the best in what you do, they're going to come back to you for opportunities. And so when the Morrison Group
Facts.
launched 2 years ago, I sat on it for a year. And then this past year, I was fortunate enough to work with Madison Square Garden Networks, MSG Networks.
MSG.
MSG out of New York. Yeah, so we did a 6 month deal, 2 3 month stints, where I was just procuring their talent for all their sports betting portfolio that was launching, and now it's wide open in New York City. And so that was really special because, I mean, look, I wasn't necessarily looking, again, just staying ready. You know, what we talked about earlier, always staying ready
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
and networking. And, you know, so somebody they shot with me. I answered the phone, happened to be a VP of content over there. She was like, look, come over here. I got a conversation we need to have. I flew to New York City, negotiated a deal. And before I knew it, we were signing, and you know, my people were in touch with their people, and the money started moving across the wire, and that's all, and
Hello.
that's all, and that and that was and that's all it took. So, but you know, not and seriously, my clients that I have now are coming off of that momentum, and so that momentum of doing good business with MSG turned into, you know, other clients that I'm actively working with right now, to come and knock on the door the same way. So, you know, I'm thankful. I'm putting some people in position to learn some things that are entering the business early. But the Morrison Group is you know, one man, myself, you know, all of my colleagues that have been willing to be a lending resource. I don't call them employees because I don't employ anyone. I have partners that are willing to pour in
Okay.
their resources that we share,
Okay.
you know, the residuals from, into the Morrison Group because I'm able to go get the business. So, for my partners that are working with me, we lean, and you know, we lean into women. This is a woman's own production company I'm wearing right now. It's not don't have
Gonna
anything to
do it
do with.
anyway.
Going to do it anyway. Shout out to Mile 44. My good people in Los Angeles. I'll see y'all again in a couple of weeks. But I believe in pouring into women, like whether it's you know, from a WNBA standpoint, or you know, our girls basketball team coming up was always dominant, and just women's sports and women in the sports industry, they get things done. And so my colleagues, while they're not all from the sports background that contribute to the Morrison Group, they are all like different, you know, people that are highly influential and highly dominant in their particular space. So whether that space is you know, chief of staff or diversity and inclusion or talent procurement, you know, I lean on them heavily, and I'm sure at some point I will have, you know, bring in some partners that are additional men. But I thought it'd be my best interest to build it the way I need to build it first before I
Yeah.
have
Yeah, for sure.
some other dominant, you know what I'm saying, bravado try to tell me what I got going
No,
on.
no, no.
You know how
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely. And I mean, shout out to the women who
Shout out to the
hold
woman.
us down.
Hmm.
You know, the reason why I'm able to sit here and have this conversation with you, it came from my wife.
Absolutely.
My wife told me to do this 3 or 4 years ago, but I wasn't ready. I didn't see the vision.
That's it.
And then I got the vision and I look back to her to say, dang, you saw this in me
Yep.
before I saw it in me.
Right.
You know, so shout out to the women who are out here taking business
Shout out.
and pushing us.
Shout out to the women. Shout out to the wives, dog. I could not have accomplished any of these lofty goals I'm talking about without my wife holding me down, and not just holding me down, but sometimes it's just allowing the space that I need to operate and being okay
Yeah, just
being
letting us
okay with it.
breathe and yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
like that
yeah.
that doesn't get, you know, spoken on, um, you know, enough. You know, so I can't, I cannot continue on without, you know, acknowledging that part of it as well. Like you said, it's very
No doubt.
important, and it's certainly needed.
No doubt. My wife is keeping our kids quiet right now, like holding it down. But all right, Steve. So we're moving towards the end
Yep,
of this episode,
yep,
man.
yep.
And you know, I know that time is currency, and you give me your time, man.
That's
But
what
I
we do,
got
boss.
three more questions for you.
All right.
Listen. So first, what is a dream scenario for you? That could be personal, that could be business, however you want to, you
Mhm.
know, formulate this. What's the dream scenario? Like everything is perfect. What's that look like for you?
Oh man, house somewhere tucked away, family multiplied, profitable and healthy. Um, individual success, financial freedom. Because we think we tend to have it now, but are we truly free? Um, you know, legacy, legacy, legacy,
Hmm.
legacy, like that. Like, what is it going to look like when my time here is done? Um,
What are they gonna remember me for?
right. What is that dash in the middle? What did I do in between those two dates? So those are things that give me pause when I think about um, what is the perfection looks like. But honestly, in all that, as long as there is happiness, as
Yes.
long as there is pure joy and happiness within um, those 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 pillars that I mentioned, and that's all that really that's it. I mean, my family is there, and I have something that's cemented into the influence. Like, I don't have to be Steve Jobs and change the world completely, but as long as I could do enough to where it was a strong
Right.
enough
Right.
impact,
Right.
you know, one of my goals is to have my name on one of those buildings at No Kind of Ante. I got a lot of work to do before I can do that, but
Hello.
that's
No.
that's one of
Listen,
my goals.
the reason why I'm asking you this stuff, man, is because manifestation is real.
Yeah,
And even for myself, I didn't dream big enough.
yeah,
I example, when I created this, I got the vision. And what I said to myself is, man, I'm just gonna do 9 episodes and I'm just gonna cut it for the summer.
yeah,
I got a call from a friend of mine who linked me with two other individuals, actually three.
mm,
And you and I had this conversation. I said, Steve, man, I think I want to do something in the summer where I can meet you in person.
yeah,
And when I got that email from my friend Layden Williams, um, he's closely related and he's in the same space as you. But when I when Layden sent me that email, I said to myself, I was thinking too small.
yeah,
I was I and at that point I expanded my vision. I said, listen, I'm just gonna start reaching out to more people
yeah,
because I don't know, man. Like it's something about that manifestation. I think if I would have said to myself, I'm gonna do it this way and thought bigger, I probably would have took it on. But I really was thinking like this,
yeah,
because I didn't really I couldn't see everything shaping in the way that it did, man. So that's why I asked you that question, man, because I mean I'm sure you do it for yourself. You put it on your whiteboard, you
yep,
talk about it with your wife and your family, your friends. But I love to hear people just put that information out, on the show, man, because it does something for me,
yeah.
like to let me know, like, listen, don't settle,
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
and there are a lot of steps to get there. I think I gave you the end, what the end looks like, but
Of course, of
it's
course.
grow my business and get more clientele and do good work in the business and hopefully sign a legendary deal for a client, or whether it be Sage, an athlete, or whoever, wherever my career takes me. But that's what it is. Like, the end goal is legacy, happiness, you know, peace and tranquility on a house on the hill somewhere. My dogs can run around and we could be great.
No doubt. All right, so on, for the now, what's next for Stephen Morrison? What's next for Morrison Group? What's coming next? Anything that you can offer that you don't have under
Yeah,
wraps until
yeah. A lot of NDAs out there. Yeah, so I'm still in the middle of, like, shooting these campaigns and these different activation assets. So I'm bouncing back and forth to LA for a while, New York City in my future for another client out there. It's just to keep grinding, man. Like, I'll pop up every now and then, do some social media promo, and get missing, and then you see, and then I'll pop up again where I'm at my destination. So a lot of that, but for the most part, it's you know making sure my deals are right, making sure my deliverables within those deals are being executed. Going out and getting more as race season is upon us. So, getting back to the racetrack with Sage. Um,
Oh, yes, sir.
but it's just grinding and making sure I'm planning out my week over weeks, down to the day over day, and not stretching myself too thin. So this is my fun period right here. This is getting into April, May, June is where, all of my vertex or my verticals rather of businesses are like going up, and they're all,
Gotcha.
yeah. So it's like it's a good time for me right now. It's a fun time.
Man, hopefully I can catch you in the summer, man, because we're planning a summer trip. So hopefully, man, I can catch you while you on the go, man. Maybe we could share a glass of red wine or a meal or something, man. You know,
Abs,
we
bruh,
have we gotta meet up, man, and get this thing going, man, and politic a little bit, man.
you already
But
know.
before I check out, Steve, man, let everybody know where they can follow you. And just promote your socials if you're into that. If you're not, just keep it light, and then
Oh,
we
I
do what we
got you.
do.
I got you, man. Well, I made it easy, man. At Steve Mo 9, right here. This right here, right there. You can find me anywhere with at Steve Mo 9 across the internet, Twitter, Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time. Also, LinkedIn. Spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. A lot of deals are done on LinkedIn, man. The Morrison Group, we're in the shadows right now, and that's what we want to be. We get business through relationships, and we keep our business relatively private until there's time to promote certain endeavors. But Steve Morrison, Steve Mo is what they call me. You can find me everywhere on social media. Manager athlete relations, the one team partners, getting everything, doing everything on behalf of the athlete to make sure they're paid for their name, image, and likeness, and opening up my marketing expertise in the consulting world through the Morrison Group. So, social media, I'm very responsive, and if you're in Charlotte, I'm always down to get a beverage or come here. So, lock
Yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, we gonna lock it in, man. But
lock in,
listen, man, Steve, thank you for your time, man. Thank you,
bro.
thank you, thank you, man. Like
It,
this is awesome, man. You didn't have to, but you did, man. You came through, man. And listen, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Nah, thank you, man. Thank you for the opportunity and the platform. I hope I didn't speak in circles too much. I hope there was some good information dropped, and looking forward to doing it again. And hey, shout out to you for creating and taking a risk and building your own platform, man. That can be very scary and challenging, but the way in which you're doing it, hats off to you, dog. Keep grinding, bro.
Man, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I check out, I have to drop that jewel. Ladies and gentlemen, it costs nothing to be good to someone, so be good to someone today. I'm Rob Fields. He's
You
Stephen
already know.
Morrison. And you guys have been on the couch. We'll check in on the next one. Thank you, and we'll holla at you.
Peace.